Okay, we are watching on the Ultimate Sports Network, Real Boxing Talk. We've got an interesting setup for today. We're looking at, this is Tony Zale versus Rocky Graziano, the third fight. Zale is in the lighter colored trunks, and Graziano is in the, well, I guess, darker colored trunks. And then we're going to go from this fight, we're going to jump in between, interspersed, whatever, interlaced, interspecies, however you want to call it, between this and Hagler Hearns. So we're going to look at two middleweight bouts that both ended the same basic way, and we're just going to kind of compare and contrast. What are we looking at? Black and white and color.
Yeah, and this is the third fight, in case somebody out there doesn't know, between these two. They both won. They were both wars. They were the Gotti and Ward of their time, but the fights never went the distance. That's how brutal they were. Zale won the first one after getting, there's a big left hook, knocks down Graziano.
Knocked down right away.
Yeah, big leaping left hook. And they've been like roller coaster fights. Graziano was winning, and he got knocked out in the first fight. And then the second one, Zale was winning, and he got knocked out. Now here's the third one in New Jersey in 1948.
Yeah, you have so many different, when you look at these two guys, they're similar in a lot of ways, because they try to knock the hell out of one of each other. But then again, they're different, because I think Zale's a little bit more tactical.
Yes.
But when you look at Graziano, you know, he can punch, his one punch can put anybody down. And we could go in the back in there and ask Sugar Ray Robinson. His one punch.
Yeah.
The
Right.
question is, could he, as we're watching this fight, could he continue to do what with the other things to make it happen to win the fight? But they were so close here in one another, but it was like, stop. But Zale had the wherewithal to kind of go, I need to step back just a little bit, because I know he's coming with everything that he has, and we see that as we continue on in this round. Now, yes.
Now,
Yeah,
what?
I was just going to say real fast, Frank, you can see, if we're talking about styles, Zale is much more precise than Rocky. Rocky really doesn't even have any footwork. He just kind of moves around and tries to nail you with that massive right hand. He was a brawler. Zale's a little bit more technical, as Charles said. So there's your contrast in styles, and it always produced great fights. So there you go.
Well, the one thing I like about it is, and we see it in quote-unquote modern fights now, there's no pawing or just sticking a hand out there to – each punch means something.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, not these guys.
Yeah.
You're right.
They just fight. They just fight. That's it. They don't clinch really, barely at all. They just fight each other. That's just the way they knew how to fight.
Right.
And that's just the way it was. And again, that's why these fights the three fights are so legendary. Unfortunately, we only have tape of this third one. We have something on YouTube where it's taped, but there's no sound or anything. Shot from somebody way up at Chicago Stadium. But these guys, they're old school, but Graziano really hurt right there. Yeah, really hurt.
And if we have the clock going, this is about 3:15, 3:20 into the first round. So, and then we have the fight that started with very slowly.
Sorry. Jeez. It's just this one. It's just I love that the way Hearns just comes walking right out at Hagler, like, all right, let's do this, and he nails Hagler right there.
Right.
You didn't see Hagler get hurt often, and he felt that one. And yeah, see, he's backing up a step. He felt it. He's holding on. But this is marvelous. This is Marvelous Marvin Hagler we're talking about.
This is when you want to talk to Richard Steele afterwards and go, what in the hell were you seeing here? Because I'm sure he thought they were going to ease their way into it, like, this is a fight already. Richard Steele's moving as much as they are.
Yeah, we got to have Richard Steele on the show, Frank.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I've talked to him before, so I'm going to try to do that one.
Okay, great.
Good. He's a great guest. Yeah, you talk about having the front row. You know about having the best seat in the house, right?
Look at the footwork he's got to use here.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is now the sad part about this is I'm going to say it's sad. It's not. We've reviewed this fight once already, but it's worth looking at again.
Yeah, it never gets old.
No,
it never gets old. That's the thing.
Somebody forgot to tell Thomas Hearns that this was the first round.
Yeah.
and you had so many more rounds to go, supposedly. But what's amazing
Lead
is
right.
you're watching this. Thomas Hearns gives you everything that he has, and to the average boxer, even to some great boxers, would have been out, literally on their backs, on their backs.
And Charles, to your point, he also shows the arsenal too. He's dancing, he's slugging. We forget what a talented boxer Thomas Hearns was.
Oh gosh, yes. He almost could fit in, even though he's got a lot of credit, obviously, for his great career. He could almost, maybe he could fit into that underrated category, I think. You know what I mean? Because he could do it all. He could box, he could slug, and he had that right hand was just vicious.
Dynamite.
I'm thinking if I'm him right here, I'm thinking, God, I hit him with my right hand.
Yeah.
Nobody stands up to that right hand, and he's still standing.
And he's hitting me back.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think like you said, too, we finally found out, too, later on that Thomas Hearns broke his hand, too.
Yeah.
That right hand. So he's still throwing, but he also is saying, I don't know how much more I have left. Because
well, he just hit granted, Charles. I mean, you break your hand, too.
Frank, look out. But to make a point, too, Frank, I'm just going to throw this at you. I know it's going to tick you off. This is the fight the judges wanted Marvin Hagler to fight.
Right, exactly. Exactly. You're right.
This is a fight, right?
And the stare down, and now we go back to this one.
Yeah, and remember, Graziano was really in bad shape after the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, and I remember I saw a show with, they used to do this When It Was or something back in the day with Kurt Gowdy. And they had Graziano and Zale on, and Gowdy asked Rocky, well, what were you thinking when he went out in the second round? He goes, I'm just thinking I'm going to go out there, I'm going to kill that guy.
I'm going to mobilize him.
That's right. I mean, he didn't know any other way to fight. That was Rocky.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing I love about Graziano, when you even listen to him, is when they had a phrase in boxing, as you see him touch Zale there. There was a phrase in boxing that you had a puncher's chance. He literally was the epitome of that.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Where if he caught you, there's a chance he could knock you in the next week.
Yeah, literally. Sure.
Now this one slowed down a little bit, and now again we're seeing Zale be a little more tactical, and Graziano's trying to get his wits about him, I think, but it won't last for long.
Yeah, you know what he's trying to do. I think he's feeling better pretty much, but he's trying to hit Zale with that big right to try to turn the fight around a little bit, which is yet in the second fight he was getting killed for like 5 rounds, and then he nailed Zale and turned the whole fight around in Chicago.
Look at Zale's jab. Boom, right on the nose, right on the money.
Very precise.
Yeah, but you can all just tell that Graziano was thinking as he's ducking and dodging and weaving a little bit.
Oh, good right.
I am one punch away.
Yep.
Yeah, well, he just threw it, but see, Zale's got those little shorter punches. You guys see that, and Rocky was never what you would call a strong defensive fighter, so he's there to be nailed. He's hurt, so he got hurt again.
Well,
and talk about going out on your shield, Frank.
Right. Well, and you know, Zale was known as the man of steel, so I'm sure Graziano's thinking, I've landed a couple of shots here. He shouldn't be standing, and he is.
Yeah, and look at this. I mean, he was hurt, and now he's going after Zale.
Yep.
That was Rocky. Look at that.
Boom. Just throwing.
Yeah, it's a pretty good rally.
Yeah, it is.
Oh
goodness. That's delivered right hands right there, buddy.
Good left of the body.
Yeah, this is classic boxing.
Yeah, Rocky made us Italians very proud because he always had guts. So we love that. You know, here we go. Here we go. Hearns Hagler round 2.
Yep. You're watching this, though, and you're watching him starting to throw that jab, right?
Right.
And I think, you see right here, we're going to see that we're watching what? 7? That right hand has not been thrown yet.
No. Is this what you're saying? Right. And he's... And now we're seeing the other side of Hearns that sometimes we don't give him credit for. Dancing, jabbing, staying away, using his length to his advantage. sometimes I think he's just a power puncher. He's on his toes. Boom. Little left hook.
Throwing left hooks.
Yeah.
He's throwing left hooks because he has to.
Yeah. But he's able to as well.
Oh, yeah. He was, yeah.
Look, he's using distance. Ooh, tried to throw it right there.
Yeah.
So you pull it back.
Yeah, right. Good point. Right, good point.
Out of instinct. It's like, this is hurting the hell out of me now.
Yeah, but he knows he's got to throw it, and he's going to do it.
But see, Charles, to your point, in the Leonard fight, Hagler's walking him down and throwing instead of just standing there looking at him. When Leonard was staying out at distance, Hagler didn't really walk him down like this. So it was a good point you made.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Begrudgingly said.
Yeah, it was a different Hagler against Leonard for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because Hearns came out so fast, it really got Hagler going too. I mean, Sugar Ray came out pretty fast too, but not like Hearns did, obviously. So.
Yeah, and I think that unfortunately the judges kind of held that against him because they probably saw this performance and it's like, you know what, this is the guy we expect to see.
Right.
If we don't see this guy, then damn it, you didn't live up to what we were expecting, which is wrong going into a fight because every fight's supposed to be different, correct?
Right. And that's what we've been told, right. Now, part of what Charles is saying is true, but and again, we're going to bring up a fighter that's not even involved in this, which is how ensconced he is in this situation, is that even though Hearns is dancing and moving, he's still engaging. And Leonard didn't engage that much, so maybe Hagler got frustrated. I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Still trying
No, I'm not. I'm trying to come up with, okay, maybe I am.
Leonard was very flashy, so
right.
Sometimes look big uppercuts. Sometimes it looked like he did more than he really was doing. And the fans were cheering for him. So judges are human, so they get swayed by a lot of that. This is just a brawl. This is just a Pier 6 brawl.
Right, and we all know, and that was different than the other fight. We all know Sugar Ray Leonard had no desire to do this.
Right, exactly.
He wanted to survive,
and for good reason.
Yeah, he wanted to survive. That's all he cared about. Hearns couldn't help himself.
Right. Was that timing perfect? One sits down, the other gets up. I couldn't have cut that better if I meant to, and I didn't mean to.
Perfect.
Oh.
Yeah. Now Rocky, remember he rallied at the end of round 2, but see that left hook.
Oops. Oh.
Yeah.
That left hook.
Oh my goodness.
Knocking him all over the place the whole fight.
And see this
not get out of the way of that left hook.
And he can't get off the ropes. Oh, to the body with it too.
That hurt.
But we also live in a time too. They were living in a time where you got knocked down. Or if you can get up.
And see in really okay. Like this is what you said, Charles. In our time now, that fight's over.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they'd have stopped it. But not then.
Yeah.
And it's stopped now. But it's Rocky, so we're gonna let him go. And he's throwing back, kinda, sorta.
Trying, but look how wobbly he is.
He came bonk. That's
perfect.
it.
It's perfect that it's the left hook that knocks him out. That was what had done all the damage pretty much the whole fight. So
pretty bad. I mean, but you know what? He's going out on his shield.
That's
like
right. Yeah. Now we come back to this one and we're like, okay. Now, Charles, I'm gonna say something that has nothing to do with the fight. I know as a cameraman, you were watching that other and going, how are these guys taking these pictures with like 17 light bulbs on top of my camera?
Oh, no doubt. Well, you had to come in knowing that you're going to get that backlash from others. So
right. And you got to be prepared, right?
You have to expect that, which means a lot of times you have to change your settings.
Right.
So you can handle it and then keep the same amount of speed to catch the shots at the same time.
Hey, look at Hearns boxing.
Hearns dancing, sticking.
His legs are
doing some Ali. Yep.
Yeah, but he's moving around. He's gliding around. Hagler's he's a freight train. That's all he is. Just keeps coming.
I mean, even when you look at this now and watching this, and I know he's been hurt and hit, but coming out, I have to wonder if, as we're going to be checking for that cut.
Yeah, the cut,
I have to wonder if Hearns the stamina is coming into play. It looks like it is. Right.
His legs are a little weak.
Yeah.
Right, but also it looks the way Hagler comes back from that break is like they're going to stop this son of a bitch here pretty soon. I got to close the deal. They're going to stop this because his head looks like hamburger meat right now.
Yeah, he's crimson is flowing all over the ring. Yeah, for sure, it's all bloody.
And if he keeps landing this jab on top of that, I'm not going to be able to last much longer. So let's close the show right now.
It's a right hand.
Boom.
Right
yep.
Down.
Sounds like somebody that really likes Marvin Hagler. I'm just saying.
I wonder who that is.
Yeah, I wonder.
You know, I have the power of the mute button right here. I can get rid of whatever I want.
But just think about that would do to your show.
All right, so that was. I think somebody came up with a good idea, and I'm not going to mention who it is, Mr. Farmer.
Hey.
That we do comparisons like this, and I think that was a heck of an idea, Mr. Farmer.
That was a good team effort. Charles came up with a comparison. You came up with Graziano, and then I mentioned Hearns Hagler, even though we had just watched it. So we're a team.
No doubt. Hey, Frank, you know what? I never been one about who's the producer or whatever.
Come on, Frank.
Long as the checks cash, baby. That's all I care about.
Hey, I will give credit where credit is due, as long as that credit is going to me. So,
can I say one thing about that? I was talking to somebody very quickly, and they were like, "Well, what if somebody says you're the best of something?" I was like, "Who cares?" I was like, "It's your opinion. It doesn't matter. All you gotta do is do the best job you can, and your work will always show." And I think that speaks volumes in anything that you do.
And really, it's hard to determine that kind of stuff. Like, we go back to the Super Bowl last week, or not even a week ago. We were anointing Patrick Mahomes as the best ever, or at least the best at the moment. And I'm not going to place the lion's share of the blame on him. Guys dropping passes. He's not the one that's not blocking, whatever. But he lost.
Yeah.
It happens. You know, it's not to say he's not great. You know, not everyone can be the best at everything, and it really doesn't matter. Like you said, it's subjective. Unless you're in a situation like this where you say, I beat him and I beat him, that makes me better than them. You know, but anything else is just what it is. So,
yeah, and you know what? Mahomes, just for a second, this is not real football talk, but Mahomes, I love the way he handled it. I mean, very, very classy. Just said, look, I wish I could have done better. It was their day. They won the game. And that's really what's – I mean, I'm not a big fan of excuses. So he could have said, well, my line was banged up. But he's not going to say anything like that. And I like that. I think that's classy. I mean, Hearns could have said, segueing back, Frank, you love this. Hearns could have said for the last, 30-some years, well, if I hadn't broke my hand, who knows what would have happened in the Hagler fight, right? Nope.
Yeah, and you're right about the excuses. I mean, one thing I'll say, too, that people don't want to really look at things for what they are. Like you said, Hagler did what he had to do. Hearns gave it all that he had, and he left it out there. Same way as you mentioned, not about football talk, right? But with Mahomes, he gave it all. They didn't play a great game. But the one thing nobody really wants to talk about is not to just say that it was all Brady, but it was the Brady factor. And knowing that some of the guys had never won before, imagine the speech he gave to those gentlemen to get them motivated.
Right.
And the way that they played in the championship game and also in the Super Bowl. They were motivated. Motivation goes a long way. Yeah. And then even in boxing, motivation goes a long way to go, this guy thinks I'm a clown or I'm not that good. I'm going to come back and show you by the work I put in, and then I'm going to show you about my performance in the room and also in football on the field.
Well, and as John said, since I love being the king of the segue, and we're going to bring this back to boxing after 27 minutes of talking about football. No, and we're going to bring it back to boxing and excuses and the pettiness that we're seeing right now between Deontay Wilder and Mark Breland. Now, it's easy to say stuff after the fact. You know, I did this, I didn't do that, you did, but it's gotten to the point where now it's ex-boyfriend and girlfriend sniping at each other over, you know, who owns the dog. You know, it's getting a little crazy now. And John, you mentioned it off the air. What's the last statement we heard by Mark Breland?
Well, he just said that really the genesis of what he said in his last, when he replied, first it was Breland replying for Wilder, accusing him of spiking the water and doing all this stuff, throwing all that, right? Months and months later, and then Wilder replied to him, and then Breland replied to that, and basically his big point I got, what he said was you couldn't talk to Wilder anymore. He didn't even have his phone number. He said you couldn't tell him anything anymore. He knew better than everyone else what he needed to do, so he wouldn't listen to him. So he felt like like he was an outside man, in a sense, looking in. So hopefully this is it. I like I said, I'm always going to give Breland the benefit of the doubt on everything, because I consider, and I still think he's a classy individual. I actually, part of me is kind of feisty sometimes, so I didn't blame him if somebody's accusing me of spiking your water.
Back, right?
I didn't blame him. He has to defend himself. I get it. But now I'm hoping that, like we were talking, I'm hoping that now he replied again, this is it. But Wilder, you're talking about, Wilder hasn't taken any responsibility for anything in this fight.
Right.
I mean, he's blamed everybody. I thought I heard him blame you, Frank, a few weeks ago. So, I mean, he's just blaming the Ultimate Frank Network. See? So it's
I screwed up, yep.
Exactly. So if he takes some responsibility, I think that would help him. But he doesn't seem like he either wants to. He's almost doing a total redo of what George Foreman did after Muhammad Ali beat him. He was poisoned. He knows he was poisoned. And he was accusing Dick Sadler of poisoning him. This is a guy that had been with him from the beginning. And it's just too hard to accept, I think, for some of these big guys, especially guys that knock everybody out. They just don't think they can lose. And hopefully this is the end of it. But it's gotten to the point now where you're right. It is like just it's gotten petty.
Well, is it, Charles? No, as I said, we get to the top of the mountain, and now we think that we're bulletproof, and everyone around us is trying to put us down. And I go back to, and we've talked about this before, to Mike Tyson. When Mike Tyson gets rid of everyone that he should trust, and he brings in people that bring in cold water and a rubber glove in a fight, and you can kind of see the crumbling there, because as you said, with George Foreman, with Tyson, we've seen it before.
Yeah, no doubt. I think too that it's tough, like you said, to accept the fact that you lost in the way that you lost, and you've been on a roll, and you've been used to dominating your opponents the way that you fight, and then all of a sudden things start to crumble, and then you have no answers to why it happened. So with that in mind, then you start to go back and pick apart what you think happened. And like you said, part of it is, I think it's becoming personal, and I think that's a bad thing.
Right.
It becomes personal, because now it's like you're talking about things that only the people on the inside of your circle know, and you continue to do that. That's not going to turn out good for anybody. Somebody's going to get hurt. As you said, I hope Mark Breland takes the high road and goes, you know what? I'm done with you. Good luck with your life. And at the end of the day, time is going to show. And lose, then hey, you got your answer right there.
Right. So we're getting to the point where we say,
well, yeah, and I
go ahead.
It's like we said earlier, Charles. Breland, I think somebody, in my opinion, might have said something to him about, look, you're getting accused of something pretty bad, and maybe you ought to think about saying something. And he did, and maybe he said more than he wanted to, because he said some pretty bad things. And then Wilder comes back and says, this is a man I fed and all this, when I helped him, and that's getting personal, like you said. Yeah. So, and that's private stuff. Maybe he loaned him some money. That's what you think when you hear that kind of stuff. stuff, right? So that's bad. You're right. That's really getting into personal stuff that you don't really. That's like airing your dirty laundry, like they say, right?
Right.
So the Breland has to come back with, you're a diva and you won't listen to anybody, and the other, he even threw the other trainer under the bus, Jay, whatever his name. He goes, Jay doesn't know, and they doesn't know anything, which I kind of agree with him based on what I've seen. But Jay is just more like a yes man, and that's what it from what you see is what it appears Wilder wants, is people that'll just say yes, 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 yes. He doesn't want anyone to go, nah, you got to think about it. But he can still knock guys out. It's just when he fights somebody that's got a little bit more versatility, he's going to have some problems, and so he's still going to, he's only lost once. That's what's crazy, right? He's lost one fight. But we all knew he was limited in a sense, but he didn't necessarily got exposed. He just got beat by a better fighter. But he ought to the best thing, I think, if I was a friend of his and he listened to me, I'd say, look, stop talking, get back in the ring. That's what you do. You want to prove, like we were saying about prove something to someone. Here's a way to prove it to them. Just get back in the ring, start knocking guys out again, and then you'll get another title shot.
Yeah, you're right. I'm with you on that too. I think that's where it comes down to that point where, like we said, time is going to tell the truth. It always does. And if I'm Breland, I'm just going to be quiet. I let it go. And if he was part of the problem, then Deontay Wilder will show you what time it is and why it's working, and why he's better off without it. So, but there's nothing. The only person that can really, it's going to be on Deontay Wilder one way or the other. Everybody got paid. One of the things I think they forgot was nothing lasts forever. Nothing. I don't care whatever it is. You can say, oh, I thought this was going to last a long time. It did for a while. But, like you said, you love that girlfriend. She went out and found another guy. You mad as hell because you gave her your best. Gotta let it go, baby.
Gotta let it go. Yeah, and I'm with you totally. I hope Breland, he replied, Wilder does. I think I would say to Wilder too, look, you said your piece, he said his piece. Just don't say anything. If some reporter calls up and he wants to rile you up, that's what he's going to want to do.
What in the world?
I really hope that happens, because Wilder's gotten a lot of criticism, obviously, for all his excuses. But I've said this before, and I'm always going to say it. We had him on the Ringside Boxing Show 2 or 3 times, and I got to say this just to counter all this negativity, all this negative stuff you read about. He was great. He was funny. He wasn't acting all like some egomaniac like everybody thinks he was. He cracked some funny jokes. He made fun of himself. So this is in a bad way right now. Things are just bad, and hopefully this is it. It's like that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
Well, you get yourself to the point where you run out of options of what you can and cannot do, and what you can and cannot say. And now we're to the point where, like you said, who's going to want to jump into that craziness down the road? Can you find a trainer? Can you work with someone? Who's going to want to promote you? Who's going to want to sign you if you're just being ridiculous? Now, if you're ridiculous and you're winning and you're charismatic and bringing fans in, that's one thing. But when you're just sniping back and forth, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. We'll see how it plays out. Okay, if you noticed, I was out for a little bit. For some reason, my ears just dropped out. So, like I said earlier, John, everything is going weird electronically today, so that's the way it goes. Now, as we're looking at the bottom line crawl there, we're seeing upcoming bouts. Josh Warrington's coming up. Why don't we touch a little bit on that, because we see 30-0, 7 KOs. What's Josh Warrington have to bring to the table this weekend?
Is that for me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I said sorry.
Warrington. This is a showcase fight. You know, he's supposed to win. Like you hear that all. That other life, he did what he's supposed to do. You know, Lara is 21-2. He's got a good record, but Warrington, he's moving up to 130. He should win. Wants to look impressive. Shakur Stevenson he got out of the weight division. He got out of 126. Where Shakur is like, nah, you know, I don't know about that. You know, he was all ready to fight him, and then something happened. I don't know. It just changed. But he's a good fighter. You know, that 7 knockouts is a little misleading. You see 7 knockouts, you think, oh, he doesn't punch very hard. You know, Carl Frampton said that, you know, my guy, the Jackal, he said that he never hit so hard as Josh Warrington hit him, stunned him. So it might be that he's a sneaky puncher where, okay, you see 7 and you think, but then in reality, he actually hits a lot harder than you think. Maybe because you see 7, you go, oh, I didn't hit that hard, I can let him hit me. And then you go, whoa. So, yeah, he should win, and I expect him to look impressive.
Okay, Charles, we're looking at a lot of stuff coming up in the next few days, weeks. We've got Jojo Diaz coming up. We've got Patrick Teixeira coming up. Joe Smith is coming up. We're looks like we're rolling back into things. Nothing huge as far as the general population is concerned, but we've got enough happening right now that we have some things to talk about. What stands out to you in the next few weeks that you're looking at going, this is something we need to take a peek at?
Well, definitely Jojo Diaz and Josh Smith. But with Jojo Diaz, though, as you mentioned before, even with Warrington, this is an opportunity to kind of build your own campaign to reach stardom, right? And you know that they're close, and even though they're fighting guys that maybe only have one blemish or undefeated, they're undefeated or one blemish on their record. This is a way to kind of build your story, to tell your story. And that's what's going to get you the bigger fights. So we're looking at these guys to go, okay, you're supposed to be the prohibitive favorite here. Are you going to continue to handle the business? Because an impressive win against these fighters coming up this week, coming up very soon, it can elevate you to that next level, and that's what they want to do.
And John, we're looking at a couple of guys that we've been talking about that are on the cusp, I guess. But when we talk about the greats, we don't talk about Josh Warrington. We don't talk about Jojo Diaz. Is this the way, as Charles said, is that to get them to that point? And we're going, okay, even though you beat somebody that maybe the rest of the world hasn't heard of, Warrington's 30-0, Diaz is 31-1. Is it time for them to get their due, or are they just a cut below?
Well, you remember, I'm sure, that Diaz lost one fight, and that was to the incredibly talented one-fight-a-year guy, Gary Russell Jr. So that is no disgrace to losing to Gary Russell. Gary Russell, as we know, is just a superior fighter. I can't help but get that in just because I want him to fight more, but he's
right.
He's going to do what he's going to do, obviously. And yeah, when he signed up to fight Gary Russell Jr., I didn't think he was going to beat him because the only guy that beat Gary Russell was Lomachenko, and it wasn't easy. He didn't exactly dominate. He won a decision over him, and it was pretty close. I was there. So Diaz says he's better now, and we'll see. He's fighting a tough guy. Tough guy got 12 knockouts. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name, Frank. But he got 12 knockouts, and he's got power, and he's southpaw. So you got the battle of the southpaws. So Diaz likes to rumble. So I expect that one to be a good fight. There's a couple of fights, especially the Castano Teixeira fight. That one could be a bloody brawl, not like maybe we just saw, but something like that where you just got two guys that are just going to be bombing at each other, and the champion is a 4-1 underdog. So that's rare that you see that. So yeah, I hope people tune in because it's some good fights.
Well, we're looking at well, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say something about Rachmaninoff, and I'm not even going to go there. Okay, anyway. Now, you mentioned something that I think is kind of important. Yeah, I know, exactly. Imagine that. You lost to one guy that you weren't supposed to really beat. Who's going to beat him? Gary Russell Jr. And Russell only lost to one guy, Lomachenko. Everybody's still in the mix, or are they? Because as we go back to what we were just looking at, between Zale, Graziano, or Hagler, Hearns, Charles, when you lost a fight back then against somebody of some caliber, you weren't out of the mix. But we're talking about, and I'm going to go to Lomachenko now. Lomachenko was being talked about like he was a paper champion just because he lost a fight. Are we to the point now where you have to be undefeated when you retired in order to be any good now? Or you have to lose, in your first 3 fights and then go undefeated? Is it fair to look at guys that have lost a fight and go, you're no longer in the mix?
I don't think it's fair. I think what's happening is it's kind of we're in the right now type of era, right? We're in the right now. Everything has to be right now from social media on. It's like who's first and all the other stuff. But it comes down to who's hot right now. Oh, you beat such and such and such. You don't get a chance to kind of get a do-over because you lost to a great fighter, right? Lomachenko for years, it took me a while to really appreciate him for what he's done.
Right.
But you stood on the merit of his record, and he was pound for pound for a long time. But now, when he loses to an up-and-coming young guy who's very talented and had a great game plan against him, then all of a sudden he's thrown back, they throw him back on the trash heap. You can't do that. That's not where it is. And I will say this, those that really know, with all of because think about this, with all of the talent that's at 135, 140, there's going to be a lot of losses. A lot of people are going to be disappointed, mad, and they're going to have to pick themselves up and keep fighting to prove that they're worthy. I think that this right now attitude in sports and then in our society is really bad because we're going to be missing out on great opportunities for great matches because we're throwing guys on the trash heap. You mean to tell me Lomachenko can get another fight with Gary Russell Jr. or maybe fight Shakur Stevenson or whoever it is? People are still calling his name out. So to just throw them away as if they are, to discard them as if they're no longer any relevance, it's crazy.
Well, I think with Lomachenko, and that's the name that came to mind when John mentioned it. I think you can say he went up a weight class too high. And then is he still can he be dominant at where he should be? Because remember, he jumped 3 classes in about 3 fights, basically. So you get to the point where you say, is he really going to be that guy coming down the road? John, is it something where we look at and you say, okay, he just wasn't in the right spot, and maybe he shouldn't have jumped up another class and he should have stayed where he was? Or do we still have something, or is he done? Lomachenko.
I don't think he's done. No way. I think he's licking his chops. He had more surgery. He came out with some comments that were, speaking of Deontay Wilder, just as ridiculous as he said that maybe the fight was the judges were fraud with the scoring, and it's like, because remember, I'm the guy that doesn't like excuses. I hate excuses, and I take some responsibility, man. You're the one who started slow. That was nobody's fault but your own. I understand there was a lot of respect there. Lopez is as Charles said, very talented. But, he's still there, and he's got all kinds of options. I would love to see him. Now, okay, your question was about 135. But Gervonta Davis fought once at 135, but he's been fighting at 130. How about Lomachenko against Davis? See, that's got me smiling right there, right?
I got no problem with that.
Why not? Right? Why not? I don't know if Mayweather wants to put his charge in there against Lomachenko. I know he didn't a couple of years ago, but after he knocked out Santa Cruz, maybe he feels differently now. But that is a fight that would garner all kinds of interest. You're talking about, I got to throw this in, Frank, just for you. Talking about 135 pounders, 140 pounders. Your guy, AB, is back on the 20th. So, yeah. He's back. There's a guy who loses a bunch of fights and still somehow remains relevant. So we're talking about now does not apply to about billions. So
not according to the bottom. Not according to the bottom line here. He's not fighting. It's not on the bottom line. It's not happening. No, I know. And again, here my problem with that is simply, it used to be you didn't know which guy was going to show up. Well, 3 or 4 fights in a row, we know which guy showed up, and that's not a guy I want to see fight. Now, that's me, personally. And he could come out because when he was doing what he was supposed to do, Charles, was there anybody better?
There might have been some people better, but he showed you the ability that he had, and when he wanted to be, he could be the class of part of a group, and he could fight, and he was a legitimate threat. I mean, all you gotta do is go back and ask. So Sean Porter, right? That wasn't just a flash knockdown; it was a little legit in the 11th round in their fight. But I think, like you said, when you come back down to it, these are still legitimate guys, like you mentioned with Lomachenko. It just somebody just needs to see that they're capable. He's definitely still capable. So I'll throw this at you. You look at a guy like Mikey Garcia, right? Mikey Garcia jumped up and went against Errol Spence somewhere way out of his line at 147. I don't think he'll ever be a 147. But he went up. He kind of got a nice little lesson. Now he can drop back down and still be relevant at maybe 140 or 135. We can make it, but probably 140. So I think the media and fans kind of choose who they let come back. I mean, how many times has Mikey Garcia lost recently, right?
Right.
I mean, it makes you wonder as to who gets that third chance. How does he get a pass? But Lomachenko, with the one loss against a very talented fighter, is now kind of pushed away. Or he's not exciting. And I think sometimes too, when you build up hype of a fighter like Lomachenko, right? You put him at the top of the mountain, as you guys mentioned, and then you knock him off. It's like, oh, he can't be any damn good anymore, right? Because if he was really good, he still would be the guy, the champion at top. And I think there's a lot of confusion when it comes to things like that.
Does BS like what I spout, and not saying you guys are spouting BS, but the idea of listening to people talking about things, does that influence who gets to stay and who doesn't get to stay? Because Triple G is still out there. He's even on the background there. I didn't realize when I put it up there. Triple G is still out there in the mix. And, okay, and not to say he deserves it, he doesn't deserve it, but he's still there. You know, you're looking at Wilder, who should be talking his way off the front page and isn't. You know, you're looking at guys like Adrian Broner, who's still in the mix. And guys that you're thinking on, wait a second, how is this guy not there? You know, we still talking about Keith Thurman. And again, I'm not saying Keith Thurman doesn't deserve a shot, but we're still talking about Keith Thurman when he and Pacquiao for that matter. You know, how is it that there are certain guys that stay in the mix and stay in the forefront of what we're thinking about and certain guys that don't? John, come up with someone you're thinking, why are we still concerned about this guy? He's not a champ. He hasn't done this. He hasn't done that. But we still want to see him fight. Or the powers that be still want to see him fight. Who's out there as you go, wait a second, why is this guy still getting shots or getting in conversations?
Well, I'll for a second, I'll just use your favorite fighter, AB. They asked him why, how do you keep coming back? And he says, well, he said, I was a champion and I'm never boring. You know, that's part of it with him. It's true. Even when he loses, he's not boring. He's saying he didn't lose and all this. But then you do the flip of him. Take Golovkin, for example. Golovkin is just very popular. You know, and I think that's what keeps him there. People like him. He's very modest. Well, you know, he is when he's interviewed and everything. And people just like him. He doesn't say anything bad about anything. Well, he did say some things about Canelo. But Canelo's fighting again on the 27th. Which is cool, and Canelo's probably going to fight Billy Joe Saunders in Vegas in May, Frank. So that's a heck of a fight. So, yeah. So Golovkin is a prime example. Manny Pacquiao is more of he's a guy that he's gotten kind of the shots that Charles was using, where he loses. He got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez brutally. Mm-hmm. Then he's fighting for a title again like a year and a half later. So I do think there's a popularity thing. I do think there's the fans love a particular fighter. And now I'm going to go another way. You talk about the Charlos, who we talk about every week here, because it's crazy what's going on with those guys. Demetrius, Andre, too. I put them all in the same category. They're all incredibly talented. They could definitely beat Golovkin right now, but they don't get a shot. Why? Because people don't really know them like they should. You know, it's the oldest adage in boxing, and you could go back and read books from 100 years ago. A fighter will say, are you going to fight this guy? And they'll say, I'm not going to fight him until he's more known.
Right.
Right. And so Charlo, we know them. They've been around for a while now. Hell, they're 30 years old, but they haven't done that crossover where they've got the attention that they deserve for their talent. And that's the sad part for me, is that a lot of this should be based on talent, not whether you're doing all this other stuff that people take into. It's like the Oscars, you should vote for somebody who you think gave the best performance based on talent, not whether they're a really nice guy or really popular or not. It should be based on just the talent, but it isn't. And unfortunately, if you are popular again, like Manny Pacquiao, and you bring in the people, I mean, he's pretty much deciding who he's going to fight next. We know what the rumors have been going on about who he's going to fight. I sure hope he doesn't fight the kid next. But that's been the rumors. And Keith Thurman's been injured so many times, Frank. He keeps himself in the mix because he's such a good talker.
Right.
But he never really got the popularity that I think he deserved. I don't. I think Keith is a hell of a talented fighter. So it almost seems like a crapshoot sometimes. Mikey Garcia's lost one fight to Errol Spence, got dominated, and he's walking around, from what I heard, as a heavyweight right now. So that's not good.
Yeah,
close to a heavyweight back in the day. He's weighing like Rocky Marciano, about 185. Not good. So it's a weird kind of a thing, and I wish they would figure out. But I'm all over the place. But when you're looking at this like Al Heyman does with Broner, he keeps giving Broner all kinds of shots. And again, it's because Broner's fights tend to get ratings.
Right.
And so to get ratings, that's part of the name of the game, unfortunately. Broner wins or loses, he always manages to come back. He's
come back somehow.
He's the old 50s sci-fi film, Frank, the thing that returned. He always manages to rise. He's only 31 years old, though.
Yeah, that's hard to remember. Right. Well, Charles, we're looking at someone who's always the Lifetime Achievement Award, as John said. He was good in that movie 10 years ago, and he didn't get the Oscar. So we'll give it to him for this one that he wasn't as good in. So that's kind of the way I know what you're talking about. Now, there's someone who speaking of popularity or notoriety, may be a better word, that his names gets brought up all the time. Should he unretire? Should he do this? Should he do that? Why is your buddy? I'm trying to figure out the way to word this. Your pal Floyd Mayweather Jr. Why is he still in people's thoughts, on their tongues? Why does he still captivate us, even though we're pretty sure he's not going to fight again? An actual fight.
Well, yeah, but one, he's undefeated, right? So
right.
Right. So he can say the stuff, and he's proven to you that if I fight a certain guy, for the most part, I can make him look ordinary. Now that the so-called belle of the ball right now is Canelo, and even though Canelo was young, he made Canelo look very ordinary.
Yes,
so Floyd is like, when I get into the ring, and I've proven to you that I'm the best. So therefore, that gives him carte blanche to kind of, what, you might see me again. And the media is so enamored by that, wow, okay, let's put him up there. Also, too, the general public is. So some people want to see Floyd win, and some people want to see him put into the stands and get the hell beat out of him and finally put him in his place, which they've been hoping for years. So that element, which I think Adrian Broner picked up on, that element of
True.
You either love me or hate me, but as Floyd said, I just want you to watch. I don't give a damn which one you like. So with that element coming up, I think that's why Floyd keeps it going. And then he'll do some things that are really bizarre, like you're fighting wanting to fight a YouTube sensation. I think he wants to do that just to show you. I know I get ratings if I beat the hell out of this guy. You might even hate me more, but I want to show you should never pick up boxing gloves ever again. But that's the Floyd Mayweather. He's built a certain kind of flair that he has, and then he's a thing that you look around, you say, I can't stand him. I want to watch him. Like Adrian Broner. You don't want to watch him, but you watch him because you're like, I want to see him get his butt whooped. I just want to see somebody destroy him, and he'll talk all the time about it. So it's like a train wreck, unfortunately. Even though you see it over there, you go, well, don't look at that. You're like, well, damn, what happened? We was always looking at wrecks. We can't help ourselves. That's what people are. And I think some of these wrecks, as we say in boxing, people keep looking at them going, I thought that was gone. Well, no, it's back again. So it goes that way.
Well, you threw a word in there that's perfectly apropos for what we're just talking about. Flair. Woo! If you look at Ric Flair, and I'll just throw that in there, the idea of you're going to love me or hate me, but you're going to pay attention to me. And I think that's where we're at with Floyd. And that's where some of these guys don't understand they're not that guy. Just be who you are. And that brings us to the next segue. Unfortunately, we just witnessed the passing of Leon Spinks. And the idea of someone who had charisma without having charisma, who had flair without having flair, who captivated our minds and our hearts since the Olympics, and did some things that were just wow. So, John, what's your first recollection of Leon Spinks?
The Olympics. I was thrilled when he won the gold medal. I liked him immediately. I liked both of them. I liked that whole team. I love that team. What am I talking about? I mean, they were great to watch. Leon was funny and alive, and just you could just tell even then that he's just a super nice guy. You could see it. Both of them. Michael's a little more serious. Leon just a fun-loving guy. And then you fast forward to 2 years later, and he's in there with my guy. And I didn't hate him after that fight because I couldn't hate someone for just that. But I was. Right. I was not a happy camper after that, and I didn't. I've only watched it once. I've never watched it again because it was so hard to watch for me.
Right.
I mean, I didn't think it was going to be Leon that beat the greatest, but he, by the way, he was the one who used to say that too. You love me or hate me, as long as you're in the seats, I don't care. You know, he was the one who said that too. He got that from Gorgeous George, you know. But that was hard, and then. Leon Spinks, when you talk about a train wreck, like you said, that's perfect segue. He was on the top of the mountain, and then he came crashing down so quick off the mountain after he lost to Muhammad Ali in the rematch, and it was hard to watch in a way. He was, because actually I thought he ended up losing 17 fights, and I thought he was better than that. I don't think that's really a fair reflection of his fistic abilities. He just threw it all away, and he got involved with other things and did some other things that he probably regretted later. But I'll always remember him, obviously the Ali fight, because it was such a huge upset. But the Olympics is what I think of when he flashed that smile, and you know he made fun of himself, and he seemed to like it, and that's what made it so hard in a way when he was dying, was that you knew that this was really a neat person and a nice person, and that's going to be the end of an era in a way, you know, when he dies. And that's how I was thinking. I was going, my God, it doesn't seem that long ago when I was watching him fight, and now he's gone. That's hard.
Well, Charles, I know we've talked before about that Olympic boxing team. So give me a little background on that, and then the career of Leon Spinks.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about it, 1976 Olympic boxing team was just filled with all kinds of talent, right? You look at Sugar Ray Leonard, Howard Davis, go from there, the Spinks brothers. It just goes on and on, but it is just so talented. So the question was, as anyone says, they always try to find out who's the best of all this talent, right? And of course, Sugar Ray Leonard pops up first. But even when you watch Sugar Ray fight, okay, yeah, he's the outstanding. He might be the belle of the ball, but it's like, well, damn, those Spinks boys are pretty good too. Howard Davis is really good, you know.
Leo Randolph, right?
Right. Also Tate. So it was so filled with talent that it was almost like must-see TV, even on tape delay. It was must-see TV. You wanted to see every bout because they were dream team. They were that exciting. So I think that kind of carried on, and then you go into the professional ranks. to see how the guys did. And you saw Sugar Ray, and you saw Michael, and then here comes Leon, right, going into the heavyweight division, fighting in a division that he's probably a little bit smaller for, right? Was really a better, more of a light heavyweight cruiserweight at best. But he's coming in there fighting, and he jumps in there with Ali, and you're like, what the hell? You're an Olympic boxer. You can't do that. You're not ready for this. A lot of people have tried before, but he came in, he got the job done, and I think Leon Spinks was honest with himself. He never was going to be considered top pound for pound heavyweight fighters, but he used his resources and his skill set to be the best Leon he could be. In fact, after he beat Ali, he made that statement. He said, I'm not the greatest, I'm just the latest. But that was Leon Spinks. So that's how he brought up himself. But as we know, the outside forces came on him, and he just had trouble sticking together. Because you notice after he defeated Ali, he lost his title. It was taken from him because he would not go against a mandatory Ken Norton. So he lost his title. It wasn't anything he did in the ring, but he lost that title. Then he tried to come back, lost to Ali. Then he tried to reinvent himself. He loses to Larry Holmes, and then tries to go back, drop down to cruiserweight and fight the white Pawi, Muhammad. And it's like this tough. You could just tell that he wasn't the same guy as he was, but he was a good dude. When you consider coming out of St. Louis, their situation there as a family, and he was a Marine. We don't talk about that. The dude was a Marine, man. You got to take your hat off to anybody that served in that background. But he was a good dude, member also of the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame, and he came to fight. Wasn't the biggest guy either, but he used his time well and gave it all that he had. Also had a son who was a welterweight champion in Corey.
Right.
So, hey,
right.
With Leon Spinks, what you saw is what you got. And he didn't try to be anybody else.
Well, I enjoyed the contrast between Leon and Michael. The fact that you had, as you said, one was a little more outgoing, a little more out there, and Michael was a little more reserved, a little more serious about what he was doing. But they both achieved something that, and I'd have to go back and look at it. How many sets of brothers have become world champions? I don't think there are that many.
Heavyweight champions.
Heavyweight champions, right, exactly.
Nope.
None, right.
They're the only two. Yeah, they're the only ones.
Well, the Klitschko's.
Well, yeah, that's right.
But as Charles said, I'm sure Charles is going to say that doesn't count, right? But it's.
Thank you, Charles.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Let me just say this real quick. Ladies and gentlemen,
go ahead.
Our biased opinion has nothing to do with what is said on the show. Do not take that any other way. Thank you.
Opinions expressed on the Ultimate Sports Network are always. But yeah, it's an interesting thing when you say that, because you. How can I word this without pissing off the rest of the world? We didn't get to see we didn't get to see the best of Leon Spinks. I'm going to ignore my initial thought, but we didn't get to see the best of him because he didn't get the chance to show the best of him. Now, if he could have capitalized on the Ali win, there's no telling what would have happened. And there's no telling if we would have seen Michael Spinks as a heavyweight champion. He probably would have stayed a lightweight. But he didn't get to capitalize on that for various different reasons, as we mentioned. But still, he became, again, we look at this and say, well, what did you do with your life? Well, he did this, he did that. But he must have done something right because his son became a champion as well. And we look at that family and go, we talk about the Quarries. We talk about maybe even the Marquez brothers. And we talk about how many families do you have where you have the Mayweathers are the ones I can think of where you have champions from brothers and sons. That's kind of rare. So that's how we get around the Klitschko thing, Charles. But that's kind of rare that it happens that way, that you go, this is something that's very impressive. And as you mentioned, grew up in St. Louis, let's make that a little bit tougher. East St. Louis, which is just a little bit tougher than regular St. Louis. There's not an arch over East St. Louis. I'm not sure what's over East St. Louis, but there's not an arch there. And like I said, to become a Marine, to get up and out of that and to be able to do things, even if it wasn't always perfect, his way. That's the thing I think we have to remember about Leon Spinks is he did things the way he wanted to do them. Regardless of whether it was good or bad, he was able to put himself in a situation, a mindset that he was going to do things his way. So, sad for the passing of Leon Spinks. I feel for everybody, but, we still have the memories and the fights, and even though, like John said, there are fights he's not going to watch, I understand that completely. So that's something that we have to we're starting to see more of this as we get older, and our heroes are getting older. But we have to take a moment and say thank you to Leon Spinks for what he brought us.
For sure. Absolutely.
Okay, now, I didn't mean to bring that downer into something that jumped in my head there. As we're looking at guys that have fought for titles before everyone else thought they were ready, again, Lomachenko is one of those guys who go, what's he fighting for a title for? What do you have, 5 fights, 4 fights, or something like that? Is there a different way of doing things now? Because either we have extended amateur backgrounds or we don't have extended amateur backgrounds. And we're looking at the bottom line crawl here. Warrington's 30-0. I believe Teixeira's 30-0 or 31-0 or some 31-1, however it plays out. And we're looking at guys that have a lot of pro fights and they're still not there. And we're looking at guys that have few pro fights, like a Shakur Stevenson or someone who are getting shots when we aren't sure. Is there a way? And there's a question coming out of this, Charles, in a second. Is there a way that we gauge who's ready and who's not?
I'm not sure if you gauge it. I think there's a way to really just gauge it. I think that you have to come to a happy medium, right? I think certain fighters, maybe a JoJo Diaz needs 32 fights or 33 fights before he's ready to fight the best talent. But then there are other guys that I think are exceptions. Evidently, Lomachenko, with his long amateur background, really had a lot of experience that we didn't really know about. A lot of us didn't know about. So therefore, how many professional fights does he need if he's that good? Shakur Stevenson is definitely on the road to the point of excellence, and he's shown you. So I think if a guy shows you early that he's capable of playing with the big boys, as long as he's not out of his mind and he's being guided the correct way, you gotta let him go. You gotta let him fight. I mean, you think about what happened with Leon Spinks, as you mentioned. A lot of people thought he was gonna be a patsy. It was a good story because he was he was a former Marine, Olympic gold medalist, and he's fighting the champ. Oh, that'd be a great little mark on Ali's record to keep it moving. Not. So if a guy shows you that he has potential, particularly I throw Shakur Stevenson out there, he seems totally in control. Not saying that somebody else a lot more older, a lot more mature could not give him real trouble. But I think you have to balance it out as to what they've shown you in the ring and go from that standpoint. Not because you run your record up 17-0 against people who nobody heard about and you have that punch power. You have to go in there and show us the whole full, I guess I would say, the full whole display as to what's going on and what you're capable of against formidable talent. And I think that's how you decide how this works out, for sure.
Well, as we're talking about guys that get a chance and guys that get another chance, John, fill us in on something that happened a few days ago. Austin Trout.
Yeah, he won. He won easy. He's older now, as we know, but he's still obviously got skill. From what I didn't see the fight, but what I read, he looked good. He wants one more shot. Will he get it? It's hard to say. Austin was another one of those guys that come on, let's be definitive. He did not get the respect. A lot of people think he beat Canelo, as we know. We've discussed that. You watch that fight right now or after the show, you'll see that it was really close. He's not a knockout puncher. He's here it comes. He's Charles's favorite kind of guy. He's crafty.
Ding.
And he is. He's a real smart fighter, real smart outside the ring. So will he get another shot? Maybe, but he's still. What I like is that even after some really tough fights the last 4 or 5 years, he's still got obviously got some skills. Now we'll see when he gets in against someone who's younger and all that, if he's on, as my friend Rick Glazer says, on the back nine of his career, and he probably is. But I like him. I always pull for him. I can't help it. I put the journalistic part on the side. So there's always these things real quick. Is you've been doing this as long as we've been doing this. You talk to people and you start to like them. With people. I mean, he's one of those guys that we talk to, and the older fighters. I could tell you some stories about Marlon Starling and Donald Curry. They were just hilarious stories about those guys. But Austin Trout is just a class act, very bright, and I'm happy he won. So, what this leads to, I don't know. But I don't know who's promoting his fights. That's always, we always talk about it, but that's key too. You've got to have the right promoter, and you got to somehow like Lopez with Bob Arum. And that's why he got Lomachenko, no doubt about it, because that's who Lomachenko was promoted by, Bob Arum. So a lot of these political things go into this, but again, I'm just glad that Austin Trout won.
Well, John just made me think of something. Okay, I'm going to put Charles to the test here.
All right.
Yeah, woo! Guys that you mentioned a couple of fighters that if you are not a fight guy, you put your thinking cap on. If you are not a boxing guy, you mentioned two names that people will go, I don't know who that is. Marlon Starling and Donald Curry, who, if you're a boxing guy, those guys were good. But here's my thing, Charles. Get serious now. Name 5 guys that 20 years from now, people will mention them and they'll go, oh yeah, he was good. Because if you mention Donald Curry, just 5 guys. It doesn't matter, weight class or whatever. Donald Curry, people will go, I don't remember Donald Curry, or Maurice Blocker, or someone who had a good career, but they've just kind of fallen out of our heads. No one's talking about Antonio Tarver as a boxer right now. He was in that movie, yeah, but there's no one talking about or Jermaine Taylor for various different reasons why they talk about him. Kelly Pavlik, that they were front page news for a year or two, and then they're not. Give me 5 guys that will know 20 years from now, or people will know. I'll be dead in 20 years, I don't care. But they'll know in 20 years and go, yeah, I know his career.
All right. Austin Trout. No, just playing.
Frank Orton.
Yeah, there you go. Clearly, Terrence Crawford is one.
Okay.
Errol Spence Jr. 2. Shakur Stevenson. I really believe that. I think that down the line, that he's going to really be dynamite. That's 3. Let's see. He's already there, but or will be there. Canelo Alvarez is because of his popularity. I think a lot of people are going to talk about he really was good, or he was able to his longevity. And number 5, let's do something a little different. Number 5, John, give me a 5th one.
No, he's gonna have his own list. He can't help you.
Lightweight. I'm thinking lightweight, and I said
I think Teofimo probably because he beat Lomachenko. He'll probably
yeah, he might. But I guess I'm like I go there. Yeah, I go with Lopez. Actually,
okay.
Yeah, I go. Yep.
All right, fine. John, give me 5 that'll fall by the wayside in public opinion. We talk about them all the time now, but in 20 years they're going to go, I have to go look at the whatever replaces film at that point.
I think Keith Thurman is already starting to fall by the wayside. We already mentioned that. I don't think people will be talking about him. Same with Gary Russell, which of course is a tragedy as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Because it's talent. Like I said, I look at talent, and he probably have more talent, or just as much, or more than any fighter that we've seen in the last 30 years. I think he's going to be forgotten about. Let me see. I don't know even about Mikey Garcia because he disappears all the time, and everything's about now. And if you fight it and then you don't fight, people are going to forget. Oh yeah, he fought Errol Spence. Yeah, he lost. Oh yeah. That's right. Adrian Broner forgotten in 20 years. Guess he'll probably be in jail or something. But he'll sorry, Adrian. But let me see. The heavyweights are pretty forgettable. I don't know if anyone's going to be talking very much about. The thing that I'm trying to think of a heavyweight that Wilder will probably not be talked about in 20 years because he already is disrespected a lot. And then I think Danny Garcia will be the fifth. That's people don't. I mean, I always had a problem with Danny's nickname, as I've said a few times, and I never thought he was as good as a lot of people thought anyway. So, but I think he'll be. Yeah, it's like, yeah, Danny Garcia. Oh, yeah. Him. So.
Right.
Okay. Now, Charles, give me a couple of guys that we should remember from 20, 30 years ago that we don't.
Oh, wow. 20, 30 years ago. Let me think. I would probably say somebody like I'm having a blank right now. John, help me. Let me come back.
20, 30 years ago?
30 years ago.
Yeah. That should be in the minds of people who are going, historically, this guy was pretty good, but just...
Michael Spinks, though. Michael Spinks. We talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely
right.
Michael Spinks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, Spinks, I'll throw in a couple for the... You mentioned him, Donald Curry.
Yeah.
Donald Curry, yeah, those welterweights back then. Lloyd Hunnigan, I mean, he's got to beat
right.
Donald. He beat him. Marlon Starling was excellent. Mark Breland was really good back then.
Can I throw a curve in here? I don't think I got a chance to think about a guy that we're going to forget and that's not going to be in there. No, that's changing up your format.
That's right.
But
we're so structured here.
I think a guy that I don't think people are going to really remember, and they should, Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah,
yes,
that's a good one.
See, and you know, we're talking. You said that. I'm sorry, as you said that, Charles. I'm wondering about the guy behind me. You know, they should remember him, but will Andre Ward be remembered like he should be, undefeated?
Right.
Tim Bradley. Tim Bradley.
Okay.
He beat Juan Manuel Marquez.
Right.
People remember Manny Pacquiao, who got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. You're right, but they won't remember Juan Manuel Marquez, which is one of those funny,
right. So why would you remember the other guy? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, dichotomies that you go, what?
I'm going to throw one of my favorites in there that already I think has been forgotten. Eric Morales.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone knows who Eric Morales is. That whole little group there.
Those guys, yeah.
Michael Carbajal.
Right, Michael Carbajal, yeah, Ismael Vasquez, and
Vasquez,
you know, him with those wars he was in, and yeah, people forget very quickly. We all do. I mean, hell, I hadn't thought about Michael Carbajal in a long time. So there you go, little hands of stone.
Yeah, and what's amazing about it is it's our job to keep these people in mind. But B, it's also our job to move people ahead and move things forward. So just because we have this vast network of reservoir of things we can go back to doesn't always mean we're going to remember. I mean, we just showed a fight, and this is why I'm trying to bring this full circle, with Tony Zale and Rocky Graziano. How many of our listeners are going to know who the hell Tony Zale is? It's a shame, but how many are going to know? Now, granted, that was in the 40s. It was 80-some years ago, or almost 80 years ago. And people are going to go, that's that. Look, it was in black and white. Who cares? No, we just watched that fight. I thought it was a hell of a fight. So part of, I think, is the quote-unquote historians of what we do is I think we have to keep those things alive. And we can only do so much in a weekly format. But we mentioned several guys that had Vasquez, great fights we should be able to talk about. Charles, you mentioned Dwight Muhammad Qawi in there. Great fights. We've talked Marvin Johnson before. We've talked we've talked a lot of guys in there that we haven't been able to even consider. Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. We've gotten we can go Hasim Rahman, you know, Riddick Bowe. No one talks about Riddick Bowe. I don't know why. No one talks about Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe was the man for a few years there. We're trying to work out how to get him on the show, but we'll see if that works out. There are so many people that have been to the mountaintop, and granted, there are 4 or 5 mountaintops you can get to now, and I won't get on my soapbox for that. But it's the idea of they got there, maybe they stayed, maybe they didn't. But I did a little interview with Paul Vaden a couple weeks ago. How many people were talking about Paul Vaden? Paul Vaden held a belt, held it for almost a year or so, and then and some other things happened there. That's if you get to a belt, as we mentioned the Leon Spinks thing, he got to a belt. That should stand for something. Now I know we're talking about them being watered down now, but I don't have one. I don't even know where to buy one. So I think I can figure that out. But
another one to throw in there is Aaron Pryor.
I see.
Sure.
You read my mind,
Yeah,
Charles.
right.
Aaron Pryor. I was waiting to jump in with Aaron Pryor. Yeah.
But see, the thing about that is we've also forgotten about Alexis Arguello. So Aaron Pryor's signature fight was against somebody we forgot about. John, you mentioned Carlos Monzon.
Yes.
Carlos Palomino. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
That's the reason I try to write about those guys so people won't forget about them. But a lot of you're right. A lot of people. I just wrote something on Jimmy Ellis. A lot of people go, who was that? And that's sad.
I think what we have, and this is going to be a soapbox moment, so bear with me. I think what we have, the problem with what we do in general with this medium, is that we want to, and this bugs me, but I can't get away from it, we want to retweet what someone else just did, what someone just wrote, what someone else just saw, and we consider that to be part of journalism. So this, as Charles said earlier, this right here, right now syndrome is we have to do what's current and forget or not pay attention to what's already happened. Because what happened gets us there. If Deontay Wilder would take a look at the downfall of Mike Tyson, he would know to shut his mouth and listen to the people around him. That one is as simple as can be. I don't know that you can put that any other way. When you get to be bigger than your people and you think that you know more than them, trouble is going to befall you as the heavyweight champion of the world or heavyweight contender. Not to say it doesn't happen with everyone else, but that's that situation. He can look at the blueprint of Mike Tyson and go, that's what he did. Oh, that's where I'm at right now. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't do that. So we need to keep these people alive. It's great to talk about the Josh Warringtons of the world, the Joe Jed Diaz's of the world, but if everyone else is doing that, maybe that's something that everyone should have to do. Not to say that what's coming up, looking at Miguel Burchelt, that's someone that we should be talking about. And most people don't. Yeah, right. And that's going to be, like you said, that should be a war. And we don't even know anything about it. Yeah, and we don't know anything about it. So I guess where I'm trying to go with this is that if anyone is watching that is of the same mindset as a journalist, let's get the conversation going. When we mention the concept of boxing dying, it's not dying, but it's also not being supported from the past through. I'm not sure why we have that or why we don't have that. Excuse me, but we need to support it better. So that is my quest to keep things going. And for those of you watching and those of you paying attention, contact us, get in touch with us. The three of us would be more than happy to help you or to work with you, coordinate with you on how we keep this going. Because I think we've touched on something very important with this show. Of course we do, or we wouldn't keep doing it. But I think that we also understand that it's not just about what can we say about Manny Pacquiao again and again and again and again. We missed Lloyd Hunnigan. You remember there was that Hunnigan blocker, this, that. You had 4 or 5 guys there that were always there, and we forget about them. We need to keep that alive because A, these people are important. B, they're still alive. We need to talk to them as well. So, in closing, there's my soapbox moment. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, I think that, actually, let's go this way. John, what did you think about, give a quick replay of the 2 fights that we watched?
I thought it was great. I hope a lot of people watch the show. It did what Charles's brilliant idea from a while ago was, is show, you got 1948, and then you got Hearns and Hagler. It's funny, I remember the year of 1948 for that fight, but I can't tell you it was 1986. No, 7 was Leonard.
I think
Leonard
it was
and Hagler.
85.
85? Yeah, okay, 1985, right? It showed you. I mean, if you want contrast, you got it. You got color, you got black and white. But the point is you had 4 guys in there that I think epitomized what boxing is. You had talent, you had guts, you had power, and they laid it on the line, all 4 of them. They went to the mat, and 2 of them got knocked out. But if you like boxing, that was a couple of examples of what the sport is. If you like excitement and give and take and all that, can't beat it. I thought it was great, Frank. Great job. You're whoever edited for you, because I know you don't do anything except show up and do this show all the time. You do nothing. They did a great job. So leave it at that.
Mr. Peabody, what do you think?
Well, I think the fight showed you that boxing can be filled with action. In today's society, a lot of people are about action in boxing. That's what they tune in for. They want to fall back to the days of Mike Tyson beating the hell out of somebody in 30 seconds, or they want to see 2 brawlers. And I think that we saw that. Plenty of action, not the so-called candy cane style that people like to talk about Floyd Mayweather had for years, where it was so boring because he made people look ordinary. But these 2 fights, as you mentioned, during the time, modern day, and then back in the day, they both showed you that some people come literally to fight, and they stand on their own skill set, and the best person at that time is going to win. So I think it was very exciting. I think that's what a lot of people need to keep in the mindset. So you want to look for action, excitement. You have 2 great fights to ponder and look at. And I think you should look for more in the future, because there are a lot of gems like that are uncovered a lot of people don't know about.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for John and Charles. This is Sherman saying farewell. And thank you, folks, for enjoying your time or spending your time with us. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe and all that fun stuff that I have no idea what it means. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.